everyone, and welcome to the final panel of today's session within our beauty and personal care focus at Healthspan Show. This panel will be discussing, as beauty and wellness converge, what are retailers looking for? So as always, we encourage as many questions as possible. So feel free to add those in the Q&A kind of box or the live discussion box that you can find at the right bottom side of your screen. And now I'll hand over to our moderator, Emma Sandler. Emma is a beauty reporter at Glossy. Thank you, Emma.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction, Jade. So as it was mentioned, today is going to be our session on a retailer perspective on the wellness and beauty categories. Today, I'm joined by Rolando Zabban, CEO of Naturisimo, and Lestat McCree, founder and CEO of the Healthy Living Store. I'm your moderator, Emma Sandler, beauty and wellness reporter with Glossy. I'd like to kick off our conversation today by having both Lestat and Rolando summarize their businesses and involvement in the wellness space. Lestat, would you like to begin? Oh, you are on mute.
You're on mute.
Amazing, of course, no doubt about it, no surprise. I was just saying, yeah, thanks Emma for hosting panel and obviously LSX, awesome panel and platform. So yeah, as Emma mentioned, I'm one of the co-founders of the Healthy Living Store. We're a UK online wellness retailer, trying to help people be healthy. So what does this actually mean? I guess our mission is everyone's trying to be healthy, but we're trying to promote a more holistic, complete view of wellness. So I guess your typical example would be your fitness fanatic who is in the gym. Everyone thinks he's healthy. Maybe even he thinks he's healthy because he's getting bigger muscles and getting fitter. But what he doesn't realize is that in order to do that, he's filling his body with rubbish nutrition. He's no idea why he's worrying all the time and he's tired all day. So I guess we're trying to offer this more complete view of health, which we've simplified into our 4 pillars of health, which are eat, move, mind, and sleep. And we sort of go ahead and say that's sort of your mental checklist. If you cover them 4 categories, then you're on the right track to being healthy. And then obviously we fill the products with each of them. And then one that's on the maybe more business side of thing. I know there's a lot of maybe nutrition retailers, maybe fitness, yoga retailers, even massive in the female lifestyle space retailers, your Goop, Anthropologies. And I guess we're trying to find a gap in the fact of promoting true healthy living, sort of all around focused around health, wellness, and maybe there might be some sacrifices in that. Maybe beauty is one of them, quite relevant to this talk, but we're maybe focusing on, what we say is true health. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that. Rolando, please tell us about Naturisimo.
Well, thanks for moderating, Emma. Yeah, so I'm CEO of Naturisimo, one of the UK's leading retailers in clean, natural, organic beauty. Naturisimo started back in 2008. And natural, and Naturisimo very much started its journey in a typical traditional beauty, and I think developing and getting more interest in consumers life. We started adding more and more wellness products into the mix, and to beauty. But as we'll be discussing later, I think it's with beauty. So wellness is just very much something that we are interested in and part of what we do.
Thank you so much. So to kick things off, I think it's an elephant in the room that is COVID-19 when it comes to the wellness discussion. And so I'd love to hear from both of you what you think the impact has been on the wellness space and if people are thinking about wellness differently. Rolando, I'd love to hear from you first.
Yes. I mean, wellness was like starting to pick up in a big way pre-COVID, but I think during COVID and where we are now, I guess we're still within it, but hopefully we kind of believe that we are posted, but maybe not yet. It has come to the forefront. People I think, have had the chance to introspect and see, I guess, reassess their priorities in life. I think what maybe they could have, people would have seen wellness as an extension, let's say, of yoga, to say it, I guess, in a simple way in the past. But now they are more enlightened, and it's becoming more mainstream. I mean, consumers, I think, have experienced unprecedented levels of stress, which has impacted their sleep. They've felt that their nutrition habits have been disrupted, and they've had to make adjustments there. So I'm completely that of their consideration. So, and it's even, I guess, could even see that it's blurred even further the lines, between wellness and beauty. Yeah, it's an exciting, super exciting time for wellness retailers, I'd say.
And Lestat, what are your thoughts? I'm curious about if you've seen any changes with the Healthy Living Store customers and what they're gravitating towards.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first of all, yeah, I completely agree with what Rolando said. I think consumers, they're becoming much more mindful that health and wellness is well beyond and more than just the food you eat or just the runs you do or the yoga you do. It's sort of really encompassing everything you do sort of day to day, whether it's being more mindful of what you do, the way you think, the way you sleep. So yeah, I think that's super, super important. And then I guess in terms of what we've seen in our consumers, and it's also so I don't know if anyone watched the talk with Alexia Inge and Lauren Arms before, but Alexia mentioned a trend called clinical, which is a trend towards science and proven science and proven results. I think she said that Brexit took away the experts and COVID's brought it back. I think with all the focus on science and science and everything, obviously COVID has been cured by scientists and the vaccine. So people are starting to put faith back into experts, and I think that's now translating into the brands we see, the results that they're talking about. I think brands nowadays need to be backed by experts, scientific opinion. I think the consumer's very clever. They can see through the fluff and see through any false claims. I think it's quite a ruthless market maybe at the moment.
Yes, the clinical conversation has certainly been a topic among the Glossy reporters. We've certainly been seeing that in the United States, where I am based today. You and I, Lestat, we've talked before about how the Healthy Living Store is going to be ramping up the number of brands and products that it's offering over the next coming weeks. And I'm very curious, based off the changes that you have witnessed in the wellness category, are you thinking or planning on adapting your retail product portfolio to meet these new needs?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, as we discussed last week, that there's so many booming in categories and in areas of the wellness industry, like just naming some. Obviously sexual wellness is huge at the moment, both on the health side and also opening up the conversation around intimacy. I think some brands are doing that really well. Even things like gut health, psychedelics is an area that we'd never go into as a retailer, but it's an area that is booming and huge money is being poured into the research development behind it.
You mean you don't sell shrooms?
No, not yet. Is it legal in the UK? Not so sure. Not yet. But yeah, I think the main point I wanted to make on this was there's a huge area and future booming area in the wellness industry that we sort of believe is hugely untapped at the moment is men's wellness. A huge focus on the wellness industry for the past decade has been sort of your stereotypical middle class white skinny female, and I think, again, relating back to Lauren Arms and Alexia Inge's talk before, they were talking about the democratization of wellness. And okay, that might be slightly separate to the men's conversation, but being much more inclusive and diverse, I think super important. And then along similar lines is unlocking this men's market of wellness. I think men shoot themselves in the foot because we're quite straightforward and we just want everything in front of us, and obviously Amazon is the king of putting everything straight in front of you. But I think there are some brands nowadays, obviously Hims has done it very well in sort of the sexual wellness space. But yeah, I think there's huge space to unlock and tap into the men's market. It's largely untapped.
Yeah.
Yeah, could you actually elaborate on that point? Because I find men's wellness to be a really fascinating subject, and I agree with you that for a long time the concept of wellness has been the white, skinny, female type customer or archetype. But I am curious what your thoughts are specifically when it's either brands like Hims or products that could also relate to men's wellness.
Yeah, I think it's just understanding. It's almost like naturally brands have geared. I think it's easy if you're launching a wellness brand to fall into the trap of the stereotypical wellness customer. So I think it's really getting to grips with what men think, how they're like, how to stand out and make yourself different. We struggle to, we've tried to be a very gender neutral brand, but we've struggled even, especially in the early days, and even maybe now to an extent, we've just found ourselves naturally falling into just female. It's like, if you speak to a designer, like naturally the content comes back a bit more female orientated. But yeah, I think I've just seen in the chat someone mentioned mental well-being. That's a huge conversation amongst men, because I think men are naturally this sort of macho man, sort of like always can stand on their own 2 feet, never need to ask for help. But I think the conversation of men's mental well-being is opening up hugely. It's all these sort of untapped areas that I guess men are known as being sort of like able to stand on their own 2 feet, not needing much help. But basically it's that stereotype's a load of rubbish, and I think people are starting to realize.
Yes. Rolando, share with us how Naturisimo is thinking of adapting its retail product portfolio to sort of meet the new needs of wellness today.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, I mean, for us, it's just one of the fastest growing categories. So not only are we looking to expand the range, so going even deeper in categories, because there's so many beautiful brands that are coming to market, and whether they have like a nice solid clinical foundation, or they have a very nice grounding in organic and natural space with like adaptogens, but also going into a new category for us, and nicely, and bring, I guess, helping customers, consumers, sort of relieve, I guess, some of the stresses that could be caused, I guess, even from their sexual lives. But also looking at categories around home and around functional fragrance, which is one that has done actually quite well for us. The extension, I suppose, from home fragrances or candles, but actually having from like helping relieve stress, helping promote sleep. So overall, I'd say Emma, it's just about broadening, deepening the category. For sure, it will be expanding.
Thank you for that. Just in case, because you are having some Wi-Fi connection issues, if you'd like, you can turn off your camera to see if that might improve the situation.
Let's see. Yes. Apologies for that.
No worries whatsoever. So I do want to take this opportunity to remind our audience that you are free to offer questions that you would like answered. We actually have a great one here. How does mental wellness tie in with physical well-being from a retail perspective? What sort of products are you looking for? Lestat, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, definitely. I was just thinking about it. I'm not sure I have the perfect answer for it, but I mean, if we're talking about products, maybe what we look at for each category. So on the mental well-being side, sort of, we found that journaling, we saw a mix of journals and from customer feedback, get unbelievable feedback from sort of the way it's improved the mental well-being, the structure of their day, and just life in general. And then in terms of, and then obviously other categories include like meditation equipment and things like eye pillows, yoga, and all of that. And then obviously we have the physical well-being section, but in terms of the two tying together, I'm not sure if there's any sort of elaboration of perhaps what you mean. I mean, in terms of like the technology, we don't necessarily sell them, but I know there's some great sort of apps nowadays that are sort of tying and tracking your meditation timers, you're sort of tracking your steps and everything. But yeah, I don't know if there's any sort of like elaboration on that point.
Well, so of course you mentioned that you're very interested in men's wellness, but is there anything else in the wellness space that you are particularly bullish about?
Yeah. So yeah, as I mentioned before, so there are sort of certain areas, obviously sexual wellness, it's a huge one we're about to look into going into. Other areas include sort of more niche areas, sort of the microbiomes, gut health space is huge. I think a friend of mine who's in LA in America says you go to all the health shops there and just every row is offers on gut health, everything on this. And I think, well, what's the saying? Like everything starts in LA, grows in New York, and what dies in London. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, hopefully that's not necessarily true, but sort of the saying is that you see what's happening over on that coast of LA, and yeah, I think you follow it quite closely and listen to it. And I know that obviously gut health is huge. The other one is CBD. We've actually taken, so I had a brand and my partner of co-founder has taken the decision not to go into CBD, but that is an area which has a lot of legal regulations, and there's a lot of, especially in the EU and UK, that sort of complicates that. But yeah, CBD is another huge space definitely to look into.
Yeah. No, for sure. I agree with that totally, Lestat. And
I think I don't know if it's just me, but
Yeah, Rolando, I think we're still having a bit of connection issues.
for us, we're looking more at an area where gosh,
the joys of technology.
Yes, indeed. These are the new occupational hazards.
Everyone
Rolando, would you like to start again and see if we can hear anything now?
Oh, he's gone. And then there were two.
Yes, a bit of technical difficulties, but thank you for our audience for sticking with us. Moving forward, I would like to also discuss if there's anything in the wellness space that you definitely are no longer interested in. Of course, Lestat, you mentioned some concerns around things like CBD, but is there anything that you were interested in, but now you just think that it's either not helpful, relevant, or is perhaps too popular now?
Yeah, definitely. I think a very big one. It was a huge decision when we were first starting, and perhaps controversial and maybe cautious of what I say, but it's beauty. We made a sort of conscious decision not to go into beauty. Like, it's a huge booming industry. Obviously, it's great for sort of the replenish from a business point of view, the replenishables, and it is a huge industry that does need reinventing, because unfortunately there is quite a lot of bad products out there. And if you're doing what Naturisimo does and providing sort of only clean, only natural products, I think you're really reinventing and providing a very positive light on the industry. But I guess when we were sort of thinking about how we want to position ourselves and really cement our reputation, I thought we were sort of very much thinking we're a health first, all around true healthy living. And although don't get me wrong, beauty has its huge benefits, sort of as I mentioned, the natural side of it and the clean side, and also I guess the confidence it brings out in people is huge. But yeah, with gritted teeth and perhaps slight pain, that we made decision not to go into it necessarily, just to try and cement a reputation. But as I said, it's like Naturisimo doing, it's a huge industry that needs reinventing, because there's a lot of rubbish out there in it with it. And I think there's definitely room for a major voice to put forward the natural side.
Yes, Rolando, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, because Lestat has said that you're not interested.
He doesn't have the same answer as
me. Yeah, no, Lestat, you should definitely get into beauty. I think it's a good business to be in.
I'm missing my makeup.
Yeah, consider that, I'd say. Can about this afterwards. For the journey, when is the journey? And our intention is to be with our customers at any point in their journey, whether it is in the beginning, whether they are so dedicated and can actually really take can make almost their own. But sure, actually, to remove any products because we feel like the category is like picking up so nice, and we want to be able to cater to all of our customers' needs. So no, for us, I think it would be too pretty to remove from some of the more traditional beauty categories and bulk up wellness.
So I'd also like to sort of shift our conversation, because I think many of the people who are watching today are either work at brands or are founders themselves and are looking to understand the retail brand relationship. So I'd love to hear from both of you what you look for when you are evaluating brands to add to your product portfolio. Rolando, would you like to begin?
Do you want me to? Do you want me to go and or repeat the question maybe for Rolando?
Yes, I think that'd be helpful. Thank you, Lestat.
Oh, sorry, me go. So yeah, in terms of what we look for when evaluating brands, a huge one is customers. We constantly obviously speak to customers and seeing what they're talking about. But I guess, as we sort of said earlier, I guess we're very quickly looking to triple, quadruple our SKUs on our website. So right now, I guess we are overwhelmed with a long list of brands and products that we like. And I guess how we find them is, talking to our customers, a mix of expert opinions, reading sort of accredited journals, blogs, finding out the best products. I guess, and then the step beyond that is the values. And I think it relates to this sort of question in the chat, but the values and ethics behind the brand. It's nothing better than when a founder's story really rings true. And you can tell the difference when it's sort of a make-believe founder's story who's, as sort of the question in the chat says, is just sort of jumping on the bandwagon to make sales, and a true founder story where they're actually solving a problem or they've actually come across it more naturally. And yeah, I'd say maybe answer to the question, not probably a time to read, but the answer to the question is don't afraid to be too niche as a brand. I think in terms of like how to position yourself to avoid whether it's the wellness bandwagon or jumping on the wellness bandwagon, or whether you're having a true impact, is really show where you stand out. And probably one brand starting out can't solve all the problems. So really sort of hammer in on where you're strong. And then, I guess that's sort of, does that help answer the question?
For our audience, we had a question come in from Kayla asking about whether consumers can distinguish between wellness brands with an authentic positioning and brands who have jumped on the wellness bandwagon merely for sales. That was the question that Lestat was addressing. Rolando, if you can hear us, do let us know, because I'd also love to hear if there's anything that you as a retailer are not interested in.
That we're not interested in. Gosh, that's a good question. Look, for us, we are interested in niche brands, but I think, like you were discussing, it's all about, we want authenticity. So, and we want like a difference of positioning. So we want a product that we feel actually is substantially different, but is being, I guess, developed with particular values in place, and where the founder is actually, looking to support a particular mission. So for us, if we can find a product a brand that is just also beyond the product, and it's looking to help with further like sustainability practices in the world, or looking to support like ethical purposes, I think that's what we would like to see. So on the flip side, if it's just something that feels only product related and cannot deliver in other dimensions, I think it's something that we would perhaps not consider as much, because consumers are just so discerning these days.
Yes, would you say, or how important would you say the founder story is to just your general interest in a brand aside from the product itself? Lestat was mentioning that it's actually quite important for them in terms of evaluating whether to bring a brand on board.
Yeah, I think the founder story is very important, because it's I guess it's this connection point with the consumer. It's for the consumer to understand what was the trigger point for the founder to actually develop a totally new brand, and ultimately it is what resonates with the consumer, so something that they can identify with. And I think it's very easy for consumers to understand, and very see stories where the founder is like, oh yeah, I was looking for this product, couldn't find it everywhere in the world, and I decided to create my own, something that you hear way all too often. But when you actually see true innovation, it's very, very evident. It's very evident, and I think consumers get it. So no, the founder story is quite crucial, I would say.
Yes, and at the beginning of our conversation today, Lestat had brought up the concept of clinical, that is, sort of wellness products that are clinically and scientifically backed. And I wonder, when it comes to Naturisimo, if there is an inherent relationship between so-called clean products, which are very popular in the United States, and wellness. Do all wellness products, specifically those that you ingest or apply topically, have to be clean in order to appeal to you?
Yes. Oh yes, absolutely. My gosh, for us, it's clean 100% through and through. Because especially if you ingest it, it has to be about safety. So safety is number one, paramount to us. And then of course, if there can be sustainability credentials on top of that, then of course it adds to the cachet for the brand for us. But I think this safety that we're talking about, it needs to be more like scientifically proven. So we have to work together with the scientific community. So natural, I think, is so a few years ago, now
Rolando, it seems we may have lost you again, but Lestat, I do have a question for you that's sort of similar. You, of course, don't retail beauty products, but I am interested in your further thoughts on that clean wellness relationship, and if you find that clean products will need to apply in some respect for consideration for the healthy living store.
Yeah, definitely. I think, of course, beauty is probably the questions geared up towards beauty products, but I think for eat products and the nutrition and the food you're consuming, whether it's the supplements, whether it's the superfoods, proteins, I think it applies just as much. And like, we're always a natural first brand. I think it's the question of sort of where East meets West. There's obviously the argument, and a lot of Western doctors and all the rest would argue, so if you do have to have maybe less natural, and maybe there is room for chemicals. I think that's a discussion that needs to be opened up, and a discussion that needs to be had. And then perhaps, yes, there probably is a room for it. But I think in terms of the sort of products outside of maybe a clinical doctor environment, we're definitely a natural first brand. And I think what you're buying in supermarkets, you should always be natural first.
Yes, and tell us as well, for the Healthy Living store, how do you often find brands to add to your store, and is there a formal process?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's a little hectic because, like, as I said, we're sort of looking to onboard maybe like 20 brands in quite a short space of time. So I guess we've always had a list, and I think whenever, like, when you're in retail, you sort of, everywhere you look and everywhere you walk, you don't walk down Whole Foods, you walk down a supermarket, you're just immediately always looking, oh, what brand's that? Like, can I look into that? So I think the list has grown over 12 months. And it's sort of a natural evolving thought process. And I think then the next step is, once you maybe have your list and it might be a bit too big and probably a lot of rubbish on there, is the next steps then trying to validate them. Sort of maybe going on that the brand itself's website, reading the customer reviews, checking with your customers. Obviously, there is the element of customers recommending products. And then, often sometimes it's hard to find online, but seeking out an expert's opinion, like seeking out someone who really knows. Like, I guess we're fortunate enough that we have quite a wide network of experts who sort of work with us and we can tap into. But for someone maybe starting out without that, like just met Instagram or email, just find someone you think's accreditly claims, and drop them a message and just reach out, and you'd be surprised a lot of people are willing to offer advice.
Yes, we have an audience question here. Is there a key tip you would give to a brand before approaching retailers?
Yeah, I guess number one is know the retailer. Obviously, small retailers versus big retailers is probably a very different approach. For all of them, I'd say engage early with them. Don't make your first point of contact a pitch to sell it to them. I think Instagram's obviously a great tool for this. Like, drop them a message, start engaging with the photos. Especially if it's a smaller team, like if it's a team of under 10 people, like everyone's going to know who's messaging the Instagram, or the people who matter probably are. Engaging early. I think for the big ones, providing proof, getting in front of them, like real proof of results, whether it's the scientific evidence, whether it's your customer stories. And then the other way is be creative, like whether it's like obviously sending the products, like everyone probably sends the products. But like, what can you add that's different to other brands? Is it like for a smaller retailer, like we would love if a brand came to us, like we're currently working our own packaging, but like especially in the first few months, like if a brand said we've already packaged it in this beautiful way and it's amazing, rather than just like it's just the product, it has to we've not quite developed our own, then like that's a massive value add. So anyway, you can just really like stand out, think beyond the products, like the products first, like the product has to be first. But when it comes to actually like being noticed, be creative, get wacky. Like,
Rolando, if you have anything to add to that, please let us know.
No, so from my perspective, exactly what you said, Lestat, as well, I agree. For us, I think it's also important for the brands to show us what they're willing to do to actually grow awareness, because we want to work together with them to introduce the product and their brand to the market, but they have to show us what they're doing, what they're willing to do with us outside of our own networks as well, so that actually it can be successful and it can be introduced to as many consumers as possible. I think it's also important that they have done their research and that they understand our values, so that they can actually from the get-go show how they are aligned to our values and our policies, so that we don't actually waste time to find out later on that their products have ingredients that we would prefer to exclude, because it's a waste of time for everybody. And then very much about the appearance. It has to look good, and no matter what the price point is, it has to look good. It has to feel good. I mean, I just received a sample from a brand, from Australia. The images looked amazing. You received a physical product, nothing like, and it's like you can't put a product like that on the market. It would disappoint. For us, it would be that.
Yeah, I'd just add to that. I think like the partnership element and the working together and the collaboration between the brand and the retail is huge. At the end of the day, the retailer is there. You're using the retailer as a platform to sell your products. It's not a case of you give the products to the retailer and then just forget about it and then leave them be and sort of the retailer's on its own. I think working in partnership, whether it's if you have an in-house expert offering that to the retailer to then offer the content or the live events to their customers, whether it's providing samples for influencers, like especially small retailers, like it means a lot. Like we buy at a much probably higher margin than what you make the products for. So anything where it's a collaborative effort, or you go hard, you split the cost 50-50, but anything to sort of show that you're invested as well. And I had one other point. The one other point is perhaps exclusivity. I don't know, that depends on the size of your brand and who the retailer is and what you're willing to give up, but every retailer loves a bit of exclusivity. If you can offer something exclusive to one of perhaps the bigger retailers or anyone, whether it's a market exclusivity of time for a certain period to get off the ground, there's a lot of downsides, I think, to doing that. I think you've got to be aware that there are risks and it's not always the best idea, but if you're very small and wanting to get known quite quickly, perhaps it's something worth thinking about.
And you know, I would also add, I think, you know, as you were saying, Lestat, about you know, collaborating with influencers. For us, it's also very important for the brands to be willing to participate in some of the discovery boxes that we do, because they're actually very, very popular. And it's an easy and nice way for consumers to get acquainted with a new brand and try it in a risk-free way. So I think, you know, the brands who are more open-minded and look at it that way and can provide small, larger quantity samples, actually they win and they go ahead faster. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, maybe even this is after approaching, which it might be this is more when you're working with them, but like on what you're saying about the gift boxes, like even samples, if you're able to provide samples and say to the brand, I'll give you 100 free samples, even no matter how small they are, the brand would love to include that in just anyone. Yes. Treat the retailer like a sales channel and like a marketing channel, invest time in the retailer, and naturally that'll grow your sales more. Whether you offer a special deal to get on the homepage, treat it like it's almost an affiliate channel in a way. So yeah, invest time in the retailer. But probably that's post approach.
Agree.
Thank you so much for that insight. I hope our audience is finding this helpful. Rolando, I had asked Lestat this question previously, but I'd like to hear from you as well in terms of how Naturisimo finds brands to add to the store and if there's a formal process.
Yes. You know what? I wish it was a formal process. It would make our life much, much easier. But I think because we're so passionate about brands, we actually don't want to formalize it at all. So, you know, we live and breathe, and you know, I think we look at brands everywhere we are around us, wherever we can find them. So whether it is, you know, reading at publications, you know, like Glossy, for instance, or, you know, being on social media, or actually, you know, being in events like this, you know, finding out from brand founders. I mean, obviously there are no more industry, I guess the physical trade shows where we used to find out a lot about brands, but recommendations from customers, definitely we hear a lot that way. And looking at I guess competitors in other regions. So, you know, what are retailers bringing in Australia, New Zealand, in the US? You know, so it's no, there is no formal process, but you know, it's a process that we love, and especially just being in contact with the brands and seeing their passion. I think it's so invigorating.
Yeah, I'm really happy you said that, because I'm glad it's not just us who doesn't have the formal process.
Well, we're still a small retailer.
Question so our audience knows, because I think there's always the sense that there either is a formal process and you have to do something a certain way, or maybe it's just all chance and luck and no one knows anything. So I'm glad that you guys are sharing these insights, because I'm sure people want to be able to speak and connect with you after this as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like Rolando says, like the passion for the brands, like especially if it's a small company, usually like the founders has gone into that industry or that area for a reason. Like they probably love everything to do with beauty or wellness, or whether it's fragrance or whatever or electronics or whatever the retail's in, they will be that obsessed. Like if you're starting a retail store, you've got like you pick of what industry, or like there's a reason you go into that industry basically. So yeah, I think passion is a huge driver, and then passion definitely has no formula. So
like that. I like that sentence. I'm going to steal that from you later. So we only have about 5 minutes left. So I'd like to remind our audience, if you have any questions, please send them through. Oh, we actually do have a question. This is from Vanessa. Do you see any value to, or are you looking for wellness products and brands that have an app associated with them? Now, Lestat, you had mentioned that you don't necessarily sell things that are techie or are apps, but I would like to start with you on this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question, and like obviously it's hard to give a generalized example. It count case for case specific. I mean, as I say, we weren't looking technical before. Like again, it's like in part of a mission. Like we'll do anything what we think is necessary to help people live healthy lives and complete full wellness. And if that did involve technology, we would be open to it. And answer the question: do you see any value or looking wellness products that have an app associated with them? I guess it depends what would be in my mind. I'm not sure that specific, but the questions I'd want to ask were, I guess, what value would the app had to us? Is it, do you have an app because that gives you better reach? Is that, do you have an app because you're engaging with your customers and creating a loyal community? And if you've got a cult following, if that app has given you a cult following, then that's very attractive to a retailer. Like if you have sort of like fans of your brand who will follow anywhere your brand goes, then yeah, a retailer would love to stock it. I don't know, Rolando, what do you think? Have you got?
Look, I mean, I think the trends are leading towards that. I mean, if you see what's happening in telemedicine, I think, you know, wellness is following there. What I tend to see is that, you know, the brands that tend to have apps, you know, are more on the DTC channel. So actually they want to work directly with their customers. So I think if they can find a way to incorporate retailers, I think if the app is really useful and the proposition compelling, I'd be totally interested, because I think it just removes, I guess it just adds a little bit of extra value to consumers. So yes, totally interested, as long as the brand, you know, as long as we can find a way to work together.
Yeah, I guess what it signals is if you've had made the decision to take the resources to invest in an app, it shows you, obviously, I mean, assuming that the app is to build community engagement with customers, it shows that you really value, I guess, the customer engagement and building that community. It shows, I guess, also that, like Rolando said, you're interested in D2C channel. But yeah, if you can find a way of linking that to retailers, it sounds exciting. It sounds different, which I guess is always good.
So we've talked a little bit about the democratization of wellness during our conversation today. But I do think there often tends to be this idea that wellness still is a luxury. So I would like to ask both of you, how important is the price point of a product to you when evaluating a brand to add to your store?
The price point is quite important, but I think it relates to what the proposition of the brand is. So, you know, whether they are really claiming ingredients, so especially in the natural space, you know, there could be ingredients that are very rare.
Rolando, I think we may have lost you there, but we'll come back to that answer and that question. Lestat, would you like to step in?
Yeah, definitely. It sounded like you had quite a good thing to say there. Yeah, I guess like this, to us, this question has two parts to it. Like, first of all, we're health first, which is kind of irrelevant of the price. Like, the main thing is the ingredient. Like, I think Rolando was about to say the ingredients, what you're putting into it, which really does come before price. But then I guess on the flip side, it's important to know what your customer demographic is. You can't, as we were saying before, you can't please everyone. And part of your customer demographic is obviously the income bracket and being able to meet their demands. If you branded yourself as a low-cost retailer, it's going to shoot yourselves in the foot by filling it with high-priced products and vice versa. I think if Goop went on and started putting budget things on Goop, their customers would have something to say to it. So, like I think Rolando was going to say, obviously it is a consideration. Of course, it has to be a consideration, but I do think the product first and health first in our case, and probably natural, clean ingredients in Rolando's case.
Rolando, would you like to try that again? You were saying such good things about, you know, natural ingredients.
Yes. No, I was trying to say that, you know, we are, as a retailer, you know, we would definitely stock higher priced products that they can justify, whether the natural ingredients are, you know, be understood, or even if it's high quality like of ingredient and would be justified. And I think, you know, we need to be able to cater to different price points for our consumers. So having products that are more elevated, the price from a price perspective, I think is totally acceptable. And yeah, would have consumers expecting that to be part of our range.
Yes. To close out today's session, I'd like to bring back sort of what I had asked initially regarding COVID-19. What expectations do you have for the wellness category in a post-COVID world? Lestat, would you like to begin?
Well, I guess a big expectation, a big way, I guess we didn't mention it in the trends, but a big way to see the wellness industry going, maybe slightly related to COVID, slightly not, is personalization. Like, I think personalization and the customers are becoming very savvy. And as we said before, there's a lot out there. Anything you can sort of offer that's personal to the customer and really meets their demands, which are always different to the demands next to us. I guess that's why we sort of try to offer this complete vision of health, because it's all well and good to providing all the supplements you need, but when you need to go out and exercise, there's products to that. When you need to improve your sleep, there's products to that. But yeah, key trend is personalization in my eyes.
Rolando, what about you? What are you expecting in terms of a post-COVID world and the wellness category?
Yeah, I would agree with Lestat. I mean, for me, it's personalization, and I think that the use of technology there, so to be able to actually, track track how we health-wise, with daily experience in a much closer way. So that's what I would expect to see.
Lestat, Rolando, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. It's been an immense pleasure. Thank you to our audience, of course, for tuning in as well.
Cheers, Emma. Thank you.
Thank you. Apologies for the connectivity.
Rolando, we really appreciate you joining and you persevering and coming back and multiple times to answer the questions. You had great points to kind of add to discussion, and Lestat, it was great to have you also here with us to kind of share your insights. And thank you, Emma, for that great moderation. It was a really interesting discussion, and I hope everyone enjoyed the session. So that concludes today's main content in terms of panels and roundtable discussions on our kind of personal care and beauty focus. We do have one more session for today for you to join, starting in just over 10 minutes, which is our Ask the Investors session, the US kind of focus. So make sure you kind of join that key interactive kind of session with really interesting investors to kind of get your critical questions asked. So with that, I will end this session and hopefully see you again tomorrow.